Hello. Today we will create another application called as math quiz. This will be a very simple application which will ask you a math question, ask you to press whether it is true or false, and then depending on your output it will display you whether you were correct or incorrect. You may have seen similar applications where you have to press some button and some pop-up appears. This application is one of those type. Today I will also explain you while developing the application what is activity, what is a layout, and how do they work together. We will also navigate through different classes that are available by Android development environment to us using Android Studio to show you that how your development environment is set up and how the overall program is working. Let's start with our Android Studio again. So I am going to create a new application. I will give it the name Math Quiz. I will not change my package. I will not change my location. Again, I am being asked to choose a SDK. I will continue with the SDK that is available on my phone. You may plan to choose it to an SDK which is available on your phone. As you can see in the drop down, you can read what version satisfies what APIs. We have been asked to choose a template for an activity. Last time we had chosen a basic activity. This time let us choose an empty activity. It is again asking us for the name of the activity. I will call it quiz activity. I have selected to generate a layout file. Now my Android Studio is creating our new project. You can see the build is running. So yes, I have a quiz activity. XML has been created. I can go and see the basic structure of the file. Just like the previous project, we have a REST folder which holds all our resources. Same string, which currently only has the app name and our Java file, quiz activity. As you will see that this Java file is extending another class called app Compat activity. As we learned in Java, that extends is used when we derive a class from another class. So you may guess that quiz activity is a subclass of app Compat activity class. Now let us see what app Compat activity has. For seeing this, I will press the control button on my keyboard, and when I bring my mouse here and if I click, I jump into the code of app Compat activity. Now I can see my app Compat activity extends fragment activity and implements app Compat callback, task stack builder dot support parent table action bar drawer toggle dot delegate provider. As you may have already guessed, these are different interfaces that it is implementing. Let's go back up in the hierarchy and click on fragment activity. We find that fragment activity extends base fragment activity JB class and implements two more interfaces. Let's go further up. We find that even base fragment activity extends another class. We keep going further up. One more. You may have also noticed that every time I go up, I am actually going to another version of Android. So now I have come till donut, and from that I reach to a class called activity, which is no longer extending another class. So yes, this was our path. Let's come back and see what we wanted to check by going up in hierarchy. So I've come back to our quiz activity class. You saw that quiz activity is nothing but an extension of multiple subclasses which all end up at a class called activity. An activity in Java is an instance of activity which is a class in Android SDK. We use an activity to manage user interaction with a screen of information. Just like in this example, we will use the activity to manage interaction when you press true or false button to a mathematics question. The another concept that we will use in this program is of layouts. We also used layouts in our previous example. A layout defines a set of user interface objects and how they are positioned on the screen. Layout is made up of definitions written in XML, as we saw in case of strings, and today we will say C for layouts, and where each of these definitions will describe one of the object on the screen. So let's go back to our quiz activity and let's go back to our resource activity quiz.xml. Yes. Now we see that this is showing us a relative layout. I will go to the text and now I can see the XML written for it. Today we will try to change this layout not graphically but by converting the XML. As explained in the last example, you may also see different widgets. In the last example, we had chosen a large text to display a welcome message, which was kind of a widget. Widgets are building blocks in Android which are used to compose a user interface. You can see different type of widgets that are available to us. Buttons, small buttons, checkboxes, radio buttons, progress bar, toggle button, etc. Now, let's come to our application that we have in mind. So, we are thinking of an application which roughly looks like this. This is our Android screen. We will display some text here, that would be our question. These will be our two buttons, and once one of these button is pressed, we will have a pop-up which will show us whether it is correct or incorrect. In Android language, I see it as a layout which is vertical, which then contains a text view that covers our question. Then there is a horizontal layout which contains two buttons. and then there is a pop up which in Android language we call as toast. Let us go back to our Android Studio and try to see what we can do. So, now I would like you to open your Android Studio, the text format of the activity quiz.xml, and start modifying it using the XML, not using the GUI. As an Android developer, you need to have expertise both in manipulating the XML and also in manipulating the GUI components. First, we are going to delete everything that is available to us. Now, let us type the layout that we want for our application. We will start with a linear layout. As you type, Android will give you enough hints. Please see that you type carefully, because if you make a mistake, your program will not compile. I want to set out my layout width. I get multiple options. I choose the right option of width. I type Android layout. I come to the width and I set the width to something called match parent. I will explain what it means later. Similarly, I want to set out the height. Height I will also set to the same. So, I want a vertical orientation. So, this is my initial outer screen. Now, I want a text view which displays my question. So, in last example, we added a text view using the GUI. In this, we will add everything by modifying the XML. I'm missing. So, if your If your Android Studio stop giving you hint, you should look up in the XML. Maybe you are missing a closing bracket. You can see that Android has started displaying in red, which basically means that I currently do not have this symbol in my program, and that's why Android cannot resolve it. Don't worry, we will soon create it. Let's start with another linear layout. This layout I will put two buttons. Yes. So now we are done with our XML file. Let's go through it again. Instead of the relative layout that was given to us, we converted it into a linear layout. We will be learning more about layouts later. I gave the width height parameters with a value match parent, which essentially means that it should match with the screen size. Then I gave a text view with wrap content, which means that it will take as much space as it wants. I provided some padding, and I then gave the text to refer to a resource called question_text. As you can see that Android is currently displaying it as red and giving me a warning that it cannot resolve symbol. If I compile my program at this stage, I will get an error. I define another linear layout in that I describe a horizontal layout, and within that I create two buttons. I correspond them to resources true button and false button, and I get similar warning that Android cannot resolve these resources. can you think where these resources should be? Okay, we will come to that part later. Let's go back, save it, and try to see what are we getting in the design. Okay, so as you will see that our design has changed. Now we are seeing our question text, we are seeing the placeholders for our buttons. Though we are getting a problem which is saying it could not resolve the symbols. This is fine with us because we have so far not defined them. Let's go back to our text and try to see that what are the attributes value that we have given. The one value match parent means that view will be as big as its parent. The wrap content, which means view will be as big as its content requires. You may also see other values such as fill parent, and you may want to change some of these values to see how much do they affect. You may want to change some of these values to see the effect on your screen. We give a padding. As you may know, padding shows that somehow there is a space available between the boundary and the text. Then we give the orientation of vertical at one place and horizontal at other place as our need, and then we define the text that will be displayed. Now instead of hard coding this text, I am referring it to a resource. Or let me do one thing, let me first hard code it to a text and see how does it impact. Suppose I set it to true. Then I go back. Now I can see that I can see my button as true. Sometimes you may be tempted to do it because it saves some of your work, but this is not a correct approach. You should always refer to a resource rather than hard coding a string. So let's convert it back. Now our first task is to create these resources. Let's go into the values, into the string, and start creating our resources. What's the name that you should be giving here? It should obviously match to what you gave earlier. Question underscore text, true underscore button, false underscore button. Oh, we have a typo here. Now it is fine. Now let's go back to our strings, create our first resource. Give it the value that we want. Suppose our question is 19 a prime number? Let's create our second resource. Give it the value that we want it to display. and then finally create our third resource. Right. Now you see that the initial warning that we were getting from Android Studio is now gone. We can see the strings that we wanted to display, that's our question, and also the correct labels on the buttons that we have created. You may be wondering that how could your layout XML got created into view objects. This is done for you by the Android Studio, and this is done for many programs by multiple of files that are automatically created by the studio. So far you have only been concerned with your main file quiz activity. Now let's see what other files are available that are making this program run. This file, as you see, has only two functions. One is onCreate. Now, and this onCreate function is calling the onCreate function of the super class or the parent class, and then the second function is setContentView. In setContentView, you see r.layout.activityQuiz. What this R is? Let's try to find the answer to this. I type R, and here we go. There is a file called r.java which has been created as part of this project. However, if you go on the left side, you will not see it. The reason is that these files are auto generated and they should not be edited. However, we would like to view the contents of R to understand that how an Android program works. Hello. Each Android program has an R file. Let us look at the R file that we have created for our program. As you will see that in the quiz activity.java file, we have a function called onCreate, which is calling another function called setContentView. SetContentView is taking a parameter r.layout.activity_quiz. Now, what is this r.layout.activity_quiz? As I told you earlier that your Android program consists of code and resources, and a resource is anything which is not code. So, if you are using an image file in your code, that is a resource. If you are using an audio file, if you are using an XML file, all those are called resource, and each resource has a resource ID. In fact, the layout which you are using is also a resource, and this is the resource ID for your layout. And we will create IDs for the buttons that we have created in our example earlier. So, let us go back and let us try to create some IDs for the buttons that we have. We save it, update it, we go to our .java. Let's build our project. Let's go to our .java. And yes, now you can see that we have created new resource IDs for true button, which was not earlier just a moment back, and also for false button. Now because we have created these IDs, we can now use these resources in our code. Let's go back to quiz activity. So far what we have done is that we are displaying a question text and we have two buttons. But what we have not defined is that what happens when we press these buttons. Actually, if you run this program right now, nothing will happen. So let's add some functionalities to these buttons. We will be adding some member variables to quiz activity, which will define what happens when we press the buttons. So I'm going to create two buttons. As you can see that Android Studio has started displaying some error. This is because I have not imported the right class files. It is asking me to press Alt and Enter. Let me do that. Now if I go to our import statements, you can see that it has imported android.widget.button. And now my errors are gone. So I have created two buttons. Now I need to set actions to those buttons. Let me add some more code so that I can specify what happens when we press the button. I initialize. After that, we will have to set a listener. You may already be aware of the concept of listener in Java. A listener is a piece of code that is run when an event happens. So we want the event to happen when we click on the button. As you can see that different type of listeners are available. I am looking for a listener that works when we click the button. This is called set on click listener. Fine. In our Java revision, we had talked about anonymous inner classes. Can you identify an anonymous inner class here? Well, I've just described one right here. Anonymous inner classes saves us a lot of code. I could have done that by declaring another class and then calling an instance of that class here. But instead of that, I chose to just create a code right here which satisfies my need. If you are not familiar with anonymous inner classes, please go back and read the Java literature carefully. There are multiple resources available on Oracle website that explains what is an anonymous inner class and how to create and use anonymous inner classes. We will be using anonymous inner classes very much while developing our Android applications, because that saves us code and also make our code more readable. Let's create the same listener for our second button. As you will see that currently we are calling the onClick function, but we are actually doing nothing. This is perfectly fine as far as program is concerned. However, we will have to soon add some functionality which gets activated when a user actually clicks the button. Okay, so let's try to add some functionality here. What we will be doing is that we want actually a pop-up to come and tell us that whether our answer was correct or incorrect. In Android Studio, we call such pop-up messages a toast. A toast is a short message that informs the user of something but does not require any input or action. Let's create a toast for our program, or maybe two toasts. Number one, because our toast will include a message, we need to create more string resources that correspond to our toast. I am currently interested in two types of toasts, one which says correct, another which says incorrect. So now I have created string resources that corresponds to my toast message. I will go back and I will now create the toast. To create a toast, you need to call a method called makeText, which is a static method, and that's why it doesn't require an object. So, as you can see, I am directly calling it, giving the reference of the class toast. This method takes 3 parameters. First parameter is a context, second parameter is a resource ID, and the third parameter is an integer variable of type duration. For the context, I want it in the context of the quiz activity. I am using this for it. For the resource ID, I want it to show the resource ID corresponding to the correct underscore toast, this one. And for the duration, I want it to be a short duration. Let me create a similar toast for our another false message as well. Once I have created the toast, I would like it to be displayed. Now, our program is almost ready. Let us go back. Everything looks fine. I can make the project, and we may want to now run it. Again, we have a choice to running it on emulator or on a phone. I would run it on emulator so that you can see it. So, our emulator is starting. Getting same warning. We need not to worry, this is specific to my device, and here is our application. So, yeah, is 19 a prime number? Let me magnify it for you. So, this is our application. It is displaying our question which we asked, and it is giving us 2 buttons which we can press. Suppose I press true. Oh, it displays correct. 19 is a prime number. Just for checking, let me press false. It displays incorrect, and as you see that after a short duration, our toast disappears. You may have used many such applications which require you to interact with buttons, display some information, etc. Today, you have successfully created an application using a layout which was different than what was given by default by Android Studio. You changed it from your XML file. You created resources in the strings file directly. You created 2 buttons. You created their IDs. You checked the IDs in the r.java. After that, you created the behavior of the buttons, and then you deployed your application successfully on emulator and run it. Congratulations, this was your first step towards creating a simple, very basic Android application, but which is useful. In next classes, you will learn to develop more and more advanced applications in Android Studio. Thank you.